morning and welcome to the media launch of the international campaign called Ring the Bells for Peace and Justice. An international campaign calling for justice for Filipino comfort women, for global peace and against war of aggression. So may ikling background lang po dito sa ating event. No? Um, the United Nations Universal Periodic Review of Human Rights is an international mechanism by which member states' adherence to international legal standards are reviewed by the UN Human Rights Council every cycle, which is 4 years. The government in review presents an official report and member states may ask questions and offer recommendations. The report is then due for adoption a few months later. Civil society is allowed to participate by submitting shadow or alternative reports or to urge member states to raise questions and recommendations on its behalf. They may also be allowed to do an oral intervention prior to the adoption where the session is being held. Japan and the Philippines are scheduled to be reviewed in the fourth cycle that began in 2022, at least for the Philippines. At mamayang alas 9 ng umaga sa Japan, no, mamayang alas 4 ng hapon sa atin, Japan is set to present its official report to the HR Council. The adoption may take place sometime in May or June 2023. Today, Lila Pilipina, the Organization of Filipino Comfort Women and their Descendants, launches this international campaign called Ring the Bells for Peace and Justice, or pakulinglingin ng mga kampana para sa kapayapaan at hustisya, calling for Japan to heed the calls of Filipino comfort women for genuine atonement over its wartime crimes. It will also toll the bells for global peace and a stop to imperialist wars or wars of aggression, which spawn massive military sexual violence against women wherever they are staged. Yan. So, i-acknowledge lang natin yung mga kasama natin ngayong umaga, no, mga kabataan mula sa Kaisa Foundation, yung ating mga kasama sa media, kasama natin ng CNN, Daily Manila Shimbun, GMA, EPA, CCTV at ang Xinhua News Agency. Ayan. So, to tell us more about the campaign, narito po si Sharon Cabusao Silva, Executive Director ng Lila Philippines.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming to this press conference. Naipaliwanag or Faye Cantala, one of our board members and the MC for this morning, has already explained the very basic information about the United Nations Universal Periodic Review of Human Rights in Japan, that's going to take place today at 4 o'clock p.m. Geneva time at the UN headquarters in Geneva. So we took this as an occasion for us to reiterate our cause for justice. I think that Japan did not include any mention of the Filipino comfort women or the comfort women issue in its report to the UNHRC. So many decades after World War II, it has continued to ignore this very, very important issue, and yet it is also now taking a militarist path by becoming a junior partner of the U.S. in the Japan-U.S. military alliance that is in the Asia-Pacific region. So we in Lila Pilipina believe that it's very, very important that we take up again this issue of justice for the Filipino comfort women when Japan presents its human rights report to the UN Council, because one, we do not want a repeat of what happened in World War II, when so much abuses and horrible tragedies struck the nation when Japan occupied the country. Today, Japan is developing its missile industry and is developing an alliance of powerful nations and developing its capacity to strike at any nation that it perceives as a threat. And this is something that we Filipinos should be very, very worried about. And this is something that actually all peoples in the Asian Pacific region should be very, very worried about. So we have launched an international campaign asking for our our friends and solidarity partners from different countries. We are launching this campaign today for them to support our call, not only for justice, for Filipino comfort women and all other comfort women from other Asian nations, but also to support our call for a stop to the reversion of Japan to militarism and the path of war, and also a stop to all wars that the powerful nations are inflicting on the less powerful nations of the world. So yun muna po, and we will entertain questions later. Thank you very much.
Salamat po. Pwede po natin pakinggan ngayon ang kaunting pahayag mula kay Lola Estelita D. at Lola Narcisa Claveria.
Silent tapos ano ba yung tungkol sa dieta? Ayaw din natin paano gagawin natin. Magandang umaga sa atin lahat, lalo na sa mga press na masisipag. Maraming salamat sa tulong ninyo sa atin. Kami mga Pilipina, gusto namin ang walang gera. Pero kung may gera, ang nangyayari sa amin, mauulit pa ulit sa mga bagong henerasyon. Kaya kailangan walang gera.
So being Villa Filipina do not want war, we do not want war because what happened to us might happen to the current generation. So we do not want war.
Magandang umaga sa inyo lahat. Ang Lila Pilipina po, kababaihan na katulad namin. Kami nakaranas ng hirap sa mga kamay ng sundalong Hapon noong panahon ng Pangalawang Digmaan. At ngayon, andito ako na saksi na kami ay naghirap sa mga kamay ng sundalong Hapon noong panahon ng Pangalawang Digmaan. Andiyan ang inaabuso kami, pinamamalanta kami, pinaglalaba kami. Tapos sa gabi, nalipin pa kami na iba-ibang sundalong Hapon. Kaya, ayaw ko na ng gera. Kaya kayo mga kabataan, nakababaihan, ganun din ang kalalakihan. Lumabay kayo sa amin. Kailaban natin yung paggera. Kasi napakahirap ang gera. Wala kang kasalanan, magdurusa ka sa kanila dahil pinapatungan kanila ng kasalanan. Kaya, andito kami na tunay na saksi na nakaranas ng gerang agrasyon noong panahon ng Pangalawang Digmaan. Ayaw na ayaw ko na ang gera. Kailangan, kung may gera, kailangan pag-usapan ng mahusay yan kasi napakahirap. Hindi lang naman yung nagigera ang nahirapan. Kami mamamayan, nadadamay kami walang kasalanan. Lalong-lalo na sa kababaihan. Kaya salamat sa pagsuporta nyo sa amin. Salamat.
So salamat Lola Narcisa, what she said. We suffered at the hands of the Japanese soldiers during World War II. We were made to do chores, to do laundry, and then at night we were raped. So women and men also, please join us in fighting wars. No, in wars you are innocent but you suffer. I do not want wars. It's better if we talk about it instead of launch wars. Women are the most who suffer during wars. So thank you for your support in our campaign. Both Lola Narcisa and Lola Estelita are in their early 90s na po. No? So, matagal na po silang nakikipaglaban para sa katarungan at justisya, kapayapaan. Ayun. So, ang susunod po magsasalita ay galing sa Flowers for Lola's campaign, si Miss Teresita Ansi.
Maraming salamat, Faye. Thank you very much to our supporters who braved the traffic this morning. Flowers for Lola's campaign, no, which I represent, is an umbrella group formed in 2018. No? Actually, nag-umpisa 2017 when we put up a statue of the comfort women. You can see a small picture there, no, yung statue ng comfort women, right opposite the Aloha Hotel, no, nasa tapat siya. But that's December 2017. But in 2018, that April, that statue mysteriously was dismantled and taken away by efforts of the government, who bowed down to the pressure of the Japanese government to take it down. Ito yung estatwa, no? Blindfolded, this is the full picture. Blindfolded because still seeking elusive justice. 1990 nung nag-umpisa through the efforts of the Korean NGO women, when the issue of the comfort women surfaced. In the Philippines, it was 1992 when Lola Henson came out. No? So 30 years, 31 years this year since they came out, there's no compensation, there's no justice. It has been elusive. Japan has not apologized at all. No? Their military has admitted that there were abuses, but there was no public apology from the Japanese government, nor compensation. The small compensation some of the comfort women got was from the Asia Fund put up by the Japanese NGOs also, no? But not from the government. Kaya mali, no? Our own government, when it took down the statue, even our Secretary of Foreign Affairs said, 1945, it's already been paid. The reparations, war reparations, they have been paid. Of course not. 1990 pa lang nga nalaman yung issue tungkol sa comfort women. Paano mo sasabihin bayad na? Yung katangahan mo dahil ayaw mo nang harapin na takot kayo, no? Because they bow down fearing the effect on the bilateral ties between Japan and the Philippines. And because at that time, the Minister of Japan was here in the ADB conference, and one of the discussion was to fund the subway, no, that is being put up across here. So, wala namang ibang bansa na lumuhod sa Japan fearing that it will affect bilateral ties, except the Philippines. As we always say, no, only in the Philippines. We got scared, we withdrew because we fear that it will affect bilateral ties. Remember, South Korea, they put up the statue. Even Australia, Sydney, they withdrew the ambassador for a while, no, for a few months. But they returned, no, because they saw that these countries were ready to assert their rights, except for us, no? That's why we put up the Flowers for Lola's campaign. And we are thankful because they removed the statue, so we were able to put up this coalition. We visited various universities. We had several forums and press conferences like this. We had many lectures and talks and forums for young students, for them to be aware what is the issue of the comfort women and aggression against women during wars. No? We do not want to visit the war of our fathers on future generations, Because sabi nga ni Lola Claveria at ni Lola Narcisa at Estelita, 93 years old yung isa, 92 years old yung isa, no? Sabi nga nila, it's always the innocent who suffer. Nobody wins wars. Never, never in history has any country win any war because the innocent always suffer. Kaya we put up the flowers for Lola's campaigns and we joined the Lila Pilipina today to again assert that issue, no? To highlight that issue that Japan should once and for all be ready to admit its abuses during the war and make reparations and admit that it happened. No, again they will submit their human rights report to the UN, and again this issue of their atrocities to the Asian women is not included. No, that's why we put this up and want to join the rest of the nation. No, the many other countries, there are efforts like this to ask Japan to at least admit it, put it in their human rights record that their abuses happened during the war, and apologize and be ready to make some kind of reparations or even help take care, no, of some of the surviving women because they are all in their 90s. Nagpapasalamat ako at malakas pa rin ang loob nila at malakas pa rin sila, no? Nandito sila despite the fact that they're already in the 90s. So sana ipagpatuloy natin ang pagsuporta and highlight this issue para hindi siya mamatay. Patuloy natin tayong mag-ingay, no? Patugtugin natin ang mga kampana at humingi tayo ng kapayapaan para hindi na nga magkaroon ng pang ganitong paglalaban using wars to solve conflicts among nations. Thank you very much.
Ayun, no, and we are calling on our government to really protect its citizens, no, yung ating mga lola na biktima talaga ng human rights, matinding human rights violations noong panahon ng giyera. At hanggang ngayon, hanggang hindi nila nakakamit ang katarungan at hustisya. So, ang susunod po natin magsasalita ay ang Secretary General ng Gabriela, si Clarice Pagse.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting Gabriela in this timely campaign, calling for justice for all Filipino comfort women and also the comfort women all over the world. And we are here to reiterate our support to Lina Pilipina and to our Lolas who are victims of military sexual slavery in the World War II, and who are actually being victimized all over again, no, this day, because it is very heartbreaking that they are they may be witnessing another rounds of wars of aggression this day, because we all know that the U.S. government is gearing up, no, on their Indo-Pacific strategy together with the Japanese government this year, no. So, ang US government po, kung hindi po natin alam, ay nagtayo, no, ng 5 hanggang 8 military bases, no, in Japan, and 54,000 US troops or US militaries are actually in Japan right now to conduct different military exercises, no, together with the Japanese troops. So it is even more heartbreaking, no, that the war is brewing once again. It is cruel and it is unjust, both for our Lolas, seeing the possibility of yet another war, no, in the same lifetime. And we're calling to our fellow Filipino women to stand up and fight for justice, genuine peace and genuine justice for not only for our Lolas, but also for the younger generation of Filipino women and the women all over the world, and stand up to fight against the military sexual slavery, to fight for the rights of the women all over the world. So So this day, we are very happy to join this international campaign to call out or to call for the different women all over the world to amplify the call for justice of our Lolas who have been victimized by the Japanese military and the Japanese government itself. So, thank you.
Salamat, Clarice. Just to reiterate and to provide some details. So this campaign also calls attention to the ramping up of imperialist countries' defense or war spending. Notably that of Japan, which recently approved a record high 6.8 trillion yen or 51 billion US dollars draft defense budget for 2023 after committing to acquire capabilities for striking other countries and for hosting US military bases, no? Tulad ng nabanggit ni Clarice kanina. It is alarming that Japan has tread this path without acknowledging its horrible history of wartime crimes against the Philippines and other Asian nations. So we call on citizens everywhere to reiterate, no, to support the campaign by organizing discussions among our communities. So kung gusto niyo po na matuto pa tungkol dito sa issue na ito, maaari pong imbitahan ang Hila Pilipina, ang Flowers for Lolas, para po mas may paliwanag yung issue at naglalaban at saka yung panawagan ng ating mga lola at kanilang mga descendant. So, yun po, binubuksan na natin ang hapag para sa mga tanong or mga komento. May gusto po bang magtanong? Kahit kayo na sa ating mga tagapagsalita.
Um, just to add something more, this international campaign also calls on the government of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. To finally act now on behalf of the Filipino comfort women. Past governments have never really taken up, none of them have ever really taken up the issue of comfort women because of because Japan remains as the number one creditor country to the Philippines, funding many of the flagship projects that government has been implementing. But we in Lila Pilipina assert that official development assistance should not be a leverage, should not be made a leverage by the Japanese government to deter action, no, on the part of the Philippine government. And the Philippine government has to have the political will to fight for justice for its citizens who experienced abuse in the hands of foreigners. I mean, we can never talk about having human rights and having democracy in any country without speaking about the past abuses that that country has done. And in this case, we're talking about Japan, but we're also calling on the Philippine government to please stand up now and do something about the issue of the Filipino comfort women.
Are there any questions po from our friends from the media? May microphone po sa likod.
I'm Mark Kelly from Philippines. Siguro, of course, you've always been doing it every year, but now at the time of the pandemic, siguro we're also interested in how the surviving Lolas are this pandemic. How are we taking care of them? How are their vaccination status, perhaps? And there's a group of another group of Philippine government who have elevated this to another court. Are we seeing that move also sa Manila?
Okay. In terms of the situation of the Filipino comfort women, no? As you can see that only two of them now are parang physically mobile and can still attend activities. The rest are in varying conditions like yung iba bedridden, tapos yung iba naman medyo losing na their mental, what you call that, memories. So, silang dalawa yung talagang nananatili pa na physically and mentally able to join the campaign. No? Ang sad thing about the Filipino comfort women, unlike their South Korean counterparts, no, medyo kahit papano supported, na suportahan ng kanilang gobyerno yung pangangailangan, yung mga basic needs, at least yung medical needs no, ng mga comfort women nila doon. Pero dito wala talaga eh. While several bills have already been filed in Philippine Congress in the past so many, maybe 5 years I think, pero wala talagang naging priority, hindi na prioritize yan ng gobyerno to provide the medical care at least that they needed. No? Noong panahon na tinayo yung Asian Women's Fund, there was supposed to be a 5-year medical assistance program. Pero parang ang naging method was to, parang ano bang tawag doon? Parang staggered. Hindi isang comprehensive package. Eventually, parang wala rin masyadong naging pakinabang na nakuha yung ating mga comfort women because it was quite a paltry, lang naman din, package. And today, they survive on the kindness and charity of private groups and individuals, both here in the Philippines, like kagaya ng grupo nila Miss Angsi, and several other groups from other countries who, donate whatever they can to help the Lolas to survive. No? So, yun. The second question, I think about it, I'm not very familiar with it, no? Kasi, but I don't know whether there's any movement at all on that filing.
But we,
Vaccinated kayo pareho, no? She has refused to be vaccinated, pero si Lola yata may booster na rin. Si Lola Estelita. Iba-iba rin sila eh. May mga ilan na vaccinated, may ilan na ayaw talaga. So, ang difficult naman to, compel them to undergo vaccination.
gusto ko lang po magdagdag ng parang tanong from his question na parang ano na po yung inabot ng efforts ng Nila Pilipina at mga kasama doon sa international na pag-amplify nitong mga panawagan ng ating mga comfort women.
Marami nang naging efforts. There were even legal battles, di ba, sa Japan, but all the cases were dismissed. So yung United Nations na lang at saka yung some such international mechanisms yung pag-asa natin. But then again, ang talagang laban dapat nasa home front eh. It's really up to the Philippine government to act on behalf of its citizens. But we can only solicit the support of the international community. We can only try to lobby with the United Nations for other member states to also echo the calls that we are making in terms of our calls for justice. But eventually, the struggle, the fight, the battle has to be launched within our own country by compelling the Philippine government to really stand up to fight for justice for our Lolas.
Yeah, yun kasi lahat ng court action no sa Tokyo District Court, tapos 15 countries also filed a case sa US District Court, no, District of Columbia, to force Japan to pay the kasi meron yan eh, when you commit abuses, you can be sued, no, but all the cases were dismissed. Then our own case dito sa Supreme Court was dismissed, pero ang sinabi naman dahil hindi nila kinikilala, but because it was a wrong venue, no, that they're the wrong place. Dapat kasi talaga it has to be the executive, ang ating executive i-admit mo muna, but so far 30 years since the issue surfaced, 1990 nag-umpisa yan, up to now, isang generation na. That's one whole generation. Nobody has accepted sa Philippines, Ilang pangulo na ang nakaraan, and no one dared to help, And even yung semblance man lang. Imagine how many Japanese shrines do we have to honor their dead soldiers? Di ba? Yung mga kamikaze soldiers nila sa Pampanga, meron silang shrine to honor them when they struck and killed innocent men, women, and children. Kaliraya, ang dami-daming, ang bait-bait talaga nating mga Pilipino, no? Yes, we can forgive them, but we cannot forget what they did, no? Imagine how many Japanese shrines did we allow them to put up, and our one and only comfort women statue put up in a private, and siyempre public place yan, but through private efforts. Tinanggal pa nila in the middle of the night. Imagine, pinabantayan namin yan. We asked the Manila police to guard it because the mayor said no, he did not ask that it be dismantled kasi nagkaroon ng backhoe. So, sa tinanong namin ng office of the mayor, bakit may backhoe, tatanggalin ba ninyo? They said no. I said, this is a private initiative. There is a marker of the National Historical Commission. Nobody can just remove the statue. So we asked the Manila police to guard it, and they did, no? For 3 days, ikot ng ikot ang patrol until middle of the night. Hating gabi, tinanggal nila. May naka-picture, I think about 11:30 in the evening, no? They are dismantling the comfort way on a Friday. There's nothing you can do to ask the court for an injunction because it was a Friday. So the next morning, it's gone. Wala na ang comfort women statue. So, I mean, it's so sad that the one and only thing to help us commemorate and honor the sacrifices that our women did, no, and the sufferings that they had, to at least acknowledge the sufferings, tinanggal pa. Tapos papayagan mo mga Japanese to put up their shrines for the soldiers who killed our people, who tortured our people, who raped our women. Nakakahiya, no? Kaya, that's why the Flowers for Lolas campaign was put up, a coalition of people, and we help one another to continue helping the Lolas. May mga medical mission ka tayo. Andiyan si Dr. Tan Sojong, no? Siya at anak niya talagang nag-medical mission. Sabi nga, nakakahiya tayo mga bata because the Lolas whose average age is 90, mas malakas pa kaya kaysa sa atin, ano? So, we help provide them with rice, with some care packages, Chinese New Year or during Christmas last time, no? Nagbibigay tayo. Very little yung mga naitutulong natin sa kanila, no? Pero sana ang gobyerno natin, once and for all, magising man lang yung mga natitirang comfort women, help give them, provide them with health packages, no? To let them at least ease their lives, remaining years of their lives. Thank you po.
Gusto ko lang din po malaman, Categories po of the Student Channel, may bilang po ba tayo ng mga surviving comfort women o naapektuhan po nung pag-pasok po ng mga hapon dito sa ating Finland War?
Noong 1990s, when the Comfort Women campaign started in the Philippines, siguro close to 1,000 women actually came to the office of Gabriela at saka yung task force on Asian Women's Human Rights Council, AWHRC office at that time, ano?
Ano po yun?
1993, 94, oo, mga ganon.
Anong agency po yun?
Not the task force, yung Asian Women's Human Rights Council, tsaka Gabriela. Si Nelia Sancho, when this campaign started, was the Secretary General of Gabriela. And they attended the international conference in South Korea, where the first 3 South Korean comfort women came out. So close to about 1,000 women came or wrote letters or called up the office, etc. Pero dahil private effort siya, even at that time, we did not receive any support from the Philippine government. In fact, the Aquino government at the time tried to deny the validity of the comfort women narrative, ano? So out of those several hundreds, only about 174 I think was documented by Lila Filipina and the Task Force on Filipino Comfort Women, which was created at the time to verify and document the stories of the women who came forward. Out of that 174, very few na lang, sorry I cannot disclose the exact number, but very few na lang yung mga survivors natin ngayon sa Pilipinas at saka sa South Korea. It's unfortunate that many of them passed away during this about 25 or 28 years na yata, no, since the campaign started. And none of them, at least the ones who died here in the Philippines, received any support until the time na namatay sila, no, from the Philippine government. So it's really a very, very sad situation for Filipino comfort women. Kaya siguro yung mga lola natin, in fact, hindi lang sila, kahit yung mga lola natin na hindi na masyadong physically active, when we visit them, talagang pa rin sila eh. Gusto nilang sumama. Kasi talagang gusto nilang ipaglaban pa rin yung issue nila. Kaya lang may mga limitasyon na sila. Kaya nga siguro talagang sa kanila, kahit nga minsan si Lola Estelita, sinasabi niya, actually, sabi niya, hindi ko inaasahan na makukuha ko yung hustisya habang buhay pa ako. Pero ang importante lang sa akin, malaman ito ng mga kabataan, lalo na yung kabataang kababaihan, kasi para hindi na maulit kung ano yung mga naranasan natin.
Actually, pumasok lang po sa isip ko kasi kung may mga war veterans po natin ay nakakatanggap po ng mga ayuda galing sa benepisyo galing sa ating pamahalaan. Bakit po itong mga comfort natin ay hindi man lang sila tignan at tulungan ng mga kung sino mang ahensya ng ating pamahalaan? Diba? So, mayroon po ba kayong perhaps position paper na sinumite sa tamang ahensya ng ating pamahalaan at anong ahensya po dito?
Marami na yan in the past eh. Even at the time when si President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo was newly installed president and she went to Japan, di ba, she actually nakipag-meeting sa inyo si President Macapagal-Arroyo, no, si GMA. Pero pagbalik niya, sabi niya, walang nangyari dun sa negotiations. And after that, she did not make herself available anymore to the women of Lila Filipina. Tapos, ganoon din naman nung panahon ni President Fidel V. Ramos, no? Meron silang mga parang urgings noon dun sa kay Presidente, pero yung mismong pamahalaan pa naman natin noon, yung nagsabi nga, kasi that was the time when the Japanese Prime Minister, nakalimutan ko yung pangalan, pero yung Japanese Prime Minister was issuing private letters of apology to the comfort women natin, ng Filipino comfort women. Pero yung ating mismong Minister of Foreign Affairs at the time and President Fidel V. Ramos himself ang nagsabi, there was no need for an apology. So, ganun ka, medyo, I think, sa part ng Japan talagang napakalaki ng resistance nila dun sa pag-acknowledge nitong issue na ito. Two counts, no? Sinasabi nila, isa, malakas daw kasi talaga yung feudal patriarchal culture sa Japan that, malakas ang militarism and sa kanila. But I think the real question or the real problem is that when the Shinzo Abe government decided to revert back to the path of militarism, may mga efforts din sila, di ba, to circumvent the peace clause in the Japanese constitution para makapag-engage sila ulit in war spending. I think that sort of provides the real reason why Japan does not really want to acknowledge this particular war crime. Kasi it will run contrary to the justification for the huge military spending that they have recently hiked, no? Medyo malaki, 51 billion US dollars na yata yung proposed na defense budget nila for 2023. So how can they do that and yet at the same time acknowledge that they did a lot of abuses during World War II? So contradictory yung dalawa na yun eh. So I think that's the real reason why Japan does not want to And the problem is the Philippine government is really also kowtowing to the dictates of the Japanese government. Dun sa Japanese-US military alliance, ang third factor doon is the Philippines. In fact, dun sa national security strategy that Japan came up with for 2023, may sinasabi siyang transfer of defense technology. I suppose that means lahat ng mga equipments na hindi na nila gagamitin for their war ay ipagbibili sa Pilipinas, and that they will consider that as part of the official development assistance. That's really unfair. Kasi in the first place, yung official development assistance na yan, malaki dyan, utang, nababayaran din naman natin. Pangalawa, that's militarizing official development assistance. Instead of yung dati na ang record nila ay mas economic and technical assistance ang kanilang binibigay. Ngayon, it's really just to arm the Philippine military, the Philippine Armed Forces. Walang malinaw na benefit sa mamamayang Pilipino at lalong-lalo na dun sa mga naging individuals who became victims of war during World War II. It's a very sad situation for our conflict women.
Additional lang, tanong ko kay Ma'am Teresita Ansi. We are on the crossroads right now. Ang sitwasyon ng ating bansa. No? Patungo ba tayo sa gera o patungo ba tayo sa kapayapaan at pag-unlad? So, kung dahil kayo po ay leader ng Hila Pilipinas, ano po ang isinusulong ninyo para ang ating pamahalaan ay itulang ang move towards kapayapaan in terms of foreign policy?
Nasa constitution naman natin yon, no, that our country renounces war as an instrument of national policy. Huwag tayo magpapasulsol sa malalaking bansa na nag-aaway, na nagbabanggaan, at tayo ang mga langgam na tinatapak-tapakan nila habang sila ay nagbabanggaan at nagbabangayan, no? Yun na nga, yung paulit-ulit na sinasabi ni Lola Estelita, ni Lola Narcisa, no? War is never an answer to any conflict, no? Pag-usapan, diplomacy is still the best weapon. A handshake is always better than a fist fight. So, yan siguro ang paulit-ulit nating ibibigay na leksyon. Hindi makikipagyera ang Pilipinas, hindi manggagaling sa Pilipinas, kung hindi susugsugan ng ibang malalaking bansa na mag-away, na makipag-away tayo, no? Tayo talaga ang magiging bala sa kanyon ng pakikipaglaban, no? Kaya mag-ingat tayo, no? I'm glad our constitution enshrines the fact that war is not and will never be used as an instrument of national policy. Thank you.
Yes, po.
Yeah. Good morning. I'm Dr. Tan Chocho. I'm a neuropsychiatrist from Forrester University, Institute of Medicine and Metropolitan Medical Center. I'm here with my three young doctors, Dr. Nadia Cordova, Dr. Kay Abadillos, and Dr. Gideon Hidalgo. And the reason I bring them with me is that for them to be aware of this war crime and the psychological sufferings of our Lolas. Okay? And these Lolas of ours, together with the victims from China, Taiwan, Malaysia, Indonesia, and other countries, and they suffer from these sexual assaults at the age of 12 to 15. Okay? And from psychiatric perspective, they suffer from something which we call post-traumatic stress disorder. And in these disorders, they suffer from insomnia, nightmare because of the psychological trauma, and other somatization, also the shame and the guilt feelings. In my few occasions of interviews of some of our Lolas, they still, in spite of decades of this, after these sufferings, they're still having these symptomatologies. So you can say that the post-traumatic stress disorder can last for decades or even lifetime. So this is something that we have to let it be known to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, for acknowledging that. No? Do you have any other questions? May time po ba? Okay. I last po. From our, sige po.
Sorry, I'm from Daily Manila Shimbun. Actually, once I had a dinner table with one of the foreign diplomat from Japan here. He's a high official. Actually, he made you regret free, but he told us Japanese media at that time that Japanese mission here in the Philippines actually how we can drag the Philippines to the U.S.-Japan alliance, and it means they just assume that Philippines is the pinaka far front between China and Taiwan, and so they just uh, think that Philippines is really such important in that national security like that. I guess he but say that actually as a diplomat we should not do this, but actually they cannot say no because that's what the Japanese government wants to do. Actually, I'm really shocked about it, but at the same time I could feel that they're feeling as well. So how they're conflicting themselves inside. Yeah. Actually, I wanted to share this story, but yeah, and really, Philippines somehow, I feel Japan government is using Philippines as an, one of the like a shield or like that. And then Japan maybe preparing for like that future, but the diplomat, I'm just not feeling okay that diplomat is not really wants to prevent the war, but actually what they're doing will create the war, I guess, in such a direction. Might going, I just feel worried about. So just a shit.
Yes, I think I agree with what he said, no? Especially now that the U.S. is gearing up, no, in the Asia Pacific region, no, para i-claim or ipanatili yung kanyang paghahari or yung dominance niya dito sa Asia Pacific region. So with the Indo-Pacific region strategy, economic strategy ng United States government, it is actually ensuring no yung dominance niya within the region. So the US government actually put up military bases no in the Philippines. Nag-ano sila nagdadagdag sila ng mga more EDCA military bases dito sa Philippines, no, sa Mindoro, sa Palawan. And even in Japan, no? Japan, South Korea, um, and many other places no, in the Asia Pacific region, they are actually putting up military bases to secure their dominance no, in Asia. So I think I agree with what he said because the US for a very long time has been the number one imperialist country no in the global arena. So given now that there are lots of different countries who are actually being aggressive right now, no, in terms of economic, military, and even cultural aspect, no, or dominance, no, in the global arena. I think the U.S. government together with the Japanese government is securing their military strategy, military tactics, no. Kaya very alarmed kami sa Gabriela na possible talaga na magkaroon ng another war no sa mundo. Kaya nananawagan kami lalo na papalapit na yung International Working Women's Day sa March 8. Nananawagan kami sa maraming mga kababaihang Pilipino, maging mga kababaihan sa ibang bansa na magsalita tayo, tutulan natin yung iba't ibang mga policies no ng US government, ng Japanese government, and all the imperialist governments na nagdidikta doon sa ating mga foreign policies, nagdidikta doon sa ating mga economic policies. And we should stand together to fight for justice, to fight for genuine peace no in the whole world because women just want to have peace. No, we want peace. We want justice for our lolas. We want justice for all the victims, no, of state perpetrated violence, all the victims of military sexual slavery in the whole world. Kaya kami po sa Gabriela, mananatili po yung pagkipagkaisa namin sa Dila Pilipina, pagsuporta namin at pagsama namin sa mga lola, kila Lola Isang, sa lahat ng mga lola para ipaglaban yung karapatan ng mga lola, lalo na ng mga kabataang kababaihan sa kasalukuyan. Salamat po.
Salamat. Salamat sa lahat ng nagpunta ngayong umaga. We invite them to the walk po. Pero bago po tayo maglakad papuntang Japanese.
Pabol lang.
Sige po.
Kaya po bang ikwento nila Lola yung kung ano yung pangarap na inabot nila nung panahon ng hapon? Yung kung kaya ba ikwento nila Lola kung ano yung nangyari sa kanila nung panahon ng hapon? Kung natatandaan pa nila. Kung ano yung pangarap na inabot nila?
Naka-document naman na yun. Pwede namin ibigay na lang yun sa kanila. Kasi medyo mahaba yun. Video. Pero written naman. Meron
Kahit
silang
ano lang,
kasi
kapiraso lang kung ano lang meron. Kung kaya lang nila. Oo. Kung ano lang na pwede, kung kaya lang, kung hindi naman.
Kahit sino, lola na isa.
Oo. Kasi importante
Kahit
malaman.
brief lang po, tapos yung naging epekto
Oo.
sa kanila.
Tama.
Soundbites. Importante po soundbites.
O somebody.
Alam nyo, maraming hirap ang ating naranasan doon sa kamay ng mga apo. Ako bata pa, 14 anyos lang ako. Ang mabiktima ako ng mga hapon na nagtitinda ako sa palengke. Kasama ko ang aking mama. At kami, pinangasara ng hapon at dinala sa simbahan. At doon kami inanong ng mga hapon. Pagkatapos nilang patayin ng maraming tao na pinugutan nila ng ulo sa balon ng plaza na ginagamit ng hardinero sa pagdidilig. At doon nila pinatay. At kami ay dinala sa garrison. At kami naging comfort woman.
Saan lugar po ito? Saan lugar?
Sa Talisay, Negros Occidental.
Roberto. Thank you. Join us our Cebu. Flowers.
Ibigay po ng mga bulaklak sa ating mga lola.